We got hards on. We're going to the end.
Brum brum, we have got hearts on and we are going to the end. Jesus Christ is what I will say. That was a 4 out of 10 race. Maybe, no, that's so harsh. It was a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 race with 16 out of 10 radios. The on-track antics were nowhere near as exciting as those off-track antics. And again, I think this is quite similar to, was it Silver? There was a race where it was like kind of boring until like lap 50 and then everything happened. I think it was Austria. And in the words of the Rizzle Kicks, let's skip to the good bit. We got Q1, Q2, Q3. Is that what I call it? Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3. I don't even know my own fucking segments. Which is the race run. No, it's not. It's rate my quali, then the race rundown, and then soft, medium, hardwards. I have just realised I actually haven't even done the soft, medium, hardwards yet. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to think about that as talking about this. But I very much just want to kind of skip to this whole McLaren situation because that is where my interest lies. Also Max as well, some interest in Max stuff. Obviously Oscar Piastri, he wins his first race here in Hungary, and it was an interesting way to win it. Now Oscar Piastri, he's not exactly the most, how would you describe it? He's not exactly the biggest of, he's not, he's not going to be running and screaming and doing backflips when he wins. I never expected that, but especially in the way in which he won it today, it was kind of like pretty subdued, reading the room. I'm happy internally. I'm gonna go smile about that when I'm, when I'm taking a shit and no one else is around. But in an exterior fashion, we're gonna keep it pretty low key. But we'll start off with quali, which I'm gonna give a 10 out of 10. I don't think you get a quali much better than that, so I just think that's got to be a 10. We had changing weather conditions constantly, from light rain to being dry. That's what you want. Never to the extent where they needed to ever go into intermediates, but just constantly changing, and it's just like, oh, who's going to go through? That led to big people going out. Well, it led to a big person going out. Russell went out, because I'm no longer considering Perez going out a shock, right? Perez DNFs. It is... I mean, it's every week now. It's no longer, it's almost, I feel bad even laughing at it. It's like I'm watching a man completely just self-destruct in front of the entire world every single week. And to be fair, he had a decent drive. At least this week he didn't completely fuck it up. Like, he managed to get himself back into a decent amount of points. If Verstappen ends up getting like a penalty, he'll only be, I think, a place in front of Perez, which is still crazy. But, they actually would have came together in the end there. But, Perez, he crashes out. George doesn't get out of Q1. Daniel Ricciardo puts it P1. That's how much the conditions are changing in Q1. And like, I get it, everyone's got their driver. I really like Daniel. I get it, everyone's got their driver they're really backing. Right, people love Daniel. People posting a screenshot of Daniel in P1. Hang it in the Louvre. Hang it in the Louvre. Right, but it's like, the amount of times I see people say hang it in the Louvre, right, for any little thing, any little thing, hang it in the Louvre is overfilled at the moment. It is at max capacity. I don't think we need to screenshot Danny Rick being P1 in Q1. Fair enough, we'll make some space if it was actually on pole. But, let's just, what would it say? Daniel Ricciardo, P1 in Q1 at Hungary. That's not credible enough, But to be fair, I was happy because he was on the verge of going out there. It looked like it was starting to rain heavier because I think that was after Perez crashed, and he was thinking, okay, it's just sort of done. But then he manages it just cooks up just in time, and he goes through. They had two red flags. Sonoda also crashes, and that didn't end in as exciting of a way, but he still managed to improve, and he managed to out-qualify Sonoda, so he'll be happy with that, at least as a personal sort of little fist pump. Verstappen wasn't on pole, which, to be fair, isn't the craziest thing now, but we still love to see it. He was third. Norris put it on pole. You had Mercedes. Like, it was just a great mix. I don't think you can get a quality much better. There were red flags, but it wasn't crazy long stops. Like, the race will resume in 17 hours from now, and you sit tight. And I think that helps when qualifying at like 3 p.m. I think it was. Like, when you're waking up at like 5 a.m. In the morning, and quali is getting red flagged or it's getting delayed from rain, you're like, race won't resume until 10 p.m. and you're like, Jesus, you're just in pain. Hamilton almost went out, like he only had it on P10, and there's like 4 cars left to finish, and then each one, no, they missed out, no, they missed out, no, they missed out, and it was like, he just hangs on by the skin of his teeth. It was just really good quality. It was a great quality. What more can you ask for? Yeah. Zach Brown could have stripped naked and ran on the track in some kind of, breakdown, or Max Verstappen could have, transformed the car into Optimus Prime and then started, doing the robot. Like, yeah, I get it. Crazier things could have happened that would have made it go, wow, that's crazy. But in terms of the realms of, let's say, reality, I think that was basically as good as you can get. I think that's basically a 10. That's a 10 for me in terms of quality. Into the race, which is where all the fun happens. And before we even get to the debates of the team and what should have happened and what should Norris have done, what should McLaren have done, and all of this and that, there is one major detail here which we can't ignore, which is that once again, and we're still waiting to see this from Norris, where you put it on pole, you start P1, you win the race. No drama. You just go out ahead. Very simple. We've seen Max do it a bunch of times when he's had the dominant car, and you just build a lead. You just have a boring race. You don't win driver of the day. You don't get any overtakes, but you just stay from start to finish. You just control it. You dominate the whole weekend. And again, he's on pole. And apparently, the last a lot of times, I can't remember the exact stat, the person on pole hasn't won at this track, so it is a bit more tricky. But he does get jumped by Piastri. And again, it's not damage limitations, it's Piastri, and then Verstappen's also around him. To be fair, Verstappen has to give it back. It wasn't a fair one, but still. And then Hamilton almost goes round, and it's like he always has to fight to get himself back into it. So again, and there's a lot of races like that where it's like, as long as you know the start, you basically won the race. And I think that was Spain was similar. Where he just left too much out there. I think Austria as well. But it's like, if you just get the start right, you've more or less won it with your car. So that did happen. He did get jumped by Piastri. And so fair play to Piastri because he put himself in that position. And Piastri had the pace. It kind of seemed like the McLarens this weekend. Whichever McLaren car was in front was the car that had the pace. Because when Piastri was in front, Piastri was able to just control that gap and grow it a little bit. And then when Norris went in front, same thing. He had the gap, which he could control and grow. So it kind of just seemed like they both had pace in the car, and whoever was in front. Because then when Norris kind of let Piastri go ahead eventually, Piastri was able to maintain the gap. It was only 2 laps, but I think he finished 2 seconds behind at the end of the race. So whichever McLaren was in front was the McLaren that had the pace, it seemed like this weekend. This is one of the most least interesting things considering some of the stuff that happened this weekend. But Ricciardo got completely fucked. And when you're literally viewing your teammate currently, who's never going to get the Red Bull seat because they just hate him for some reason. Sonoda crashed this weekend. Perez crashed this weekend, and you're just like, great. All I need to do is finish 10th, and I'll look like a god, right? And your team fucked Ricciardo as much as they fucked him. And he started on mediums or hards like everyone else, but he got pitted with the softs. He ended up doing 2 pit stops by the time Sonoda did 1, and Sonoda was 15 seconds ahead. They just completely ruined his race. And it's this race in Spa before the break, I think that's when the break is, and you just really need to do the bare minimum, and you look like the man when Perez is completely opening the door saying, walk through, good sir. It's that's got to be painful. Just completely messed him up there. That is a shame for Danny Rick. But aside from that, I think it's now time to get into the meat and potatoes of this race weekend. And I'm going to start with the potatoes. Still goods, but it's not got anything quite on that. Choose your meat of choice. I'm not actually too much of a roasting man. I actually don't like roast potatoes, so I'm more just kind of playing into the bit here. But hey, we're going to go into the potatoes, which I think would be the Max GP drama. Max has been having extreme head loss recently, and we're kind of seeing my favorite version of Max, which is Max when the chips are down. It is just so much more fun. People say Max has matured so much. Max has been in a great team, been great in himself, in a great car, where nothing ever goes wrong. Then the pit stop's never wrong, the strategy is never wrong, the car's never wrong, he's never wrong. It's easy to mature and look great, but now things are getting back, and he's in the gulag again. And when Max gets in the gulag, he is, he's a bare knuckle fighter, and we see it. Yeah, he's complaining at every incident. He pushed me wide. That's unfair. Get on the radio. Get him in about this. I'm diving in here, and on the radio. And to be fair, I've got it written down here, so let me find it right now. GP and this relationship that everyone claims, oh my god, they're like brothers. They've got this amazing relationship. They work so well with each other. He knows him so well. And I'm sure that is true to an extent. Yeah, they've worked with each other for a long time. That is obviously true. Or else he would just get rid. It's just if I was a driver, I could not work with GP, right? I couldn't because, and I know all of like 99% of the team speak like this because a lot of them are British and this is just kind of like a British thing. But just like this, not smug, but just like the British isms of the way they deliver stuff is very annoying. Just say it how it is. Tell me what's going on. I don't need the little smart way of saying it. Where is it? Because I've got it written down here somewhere. Max, Max is going down. Max. Swap. Do the right thing. So yeah, when Max comes out and they clearly told him like, "Oh, be safe on the tires, or whatever. Don't do nothing crazy on the tires." And then he comes out and probably puts in a really good out lap, like goes really quick, so it's the fastest lap, or whatever, because he's trying to catch up with Hamilton. He's trying to like get a podium and salvage something because his race. He feels like he's had a shit strategy this weekend. He doesn't like the strategy, right? And the GP is, clicks his little button and it's, well, that's some gentle introduction. Well, that's some gentle. I just hate this Joss Whedon sort of way these radio, like, pitbull people speak. It's so irritating. Just get on the radio and be like, Max, slow it down. We don't want you to kill the tires. We know you're trying to catch. We don't want you to. I hate when they come on and they always, without fail, speak on the radio like that. Well, that's some gentle introduction. It's just always, I wish, I'm going to start collecting these like Pokemon because every radio without fail is it. And that's not an exaggeration. It annoys me so much. And if I'm in the heat at the moment, I think that his reaction in this moment was completely justified. I think it leads to his team completely turning against him. And when Max is drowning, literally later on in the race, them being like, we're not throwing you the life ring. We'll happily watch you drown in this situation is because of like how he reacted here. But I think for this scenario in isolation, I would be annoyed. Like the way he literally replies, "Don't give me that shit. You put me on this shit strategy. I'm trying to salvage something. I'm trying to be him right now. Don't give me that." Like his response was, "Oh, fuck off. Like stop speaking to me in these like British little platitude, little fucking smart ass little croftyisms, right?" And just like they all do it. They all. I said Ted Kravitz are different people, but yeah, they all do it. This whole like way of speaking on the radio. Please tell me somebody else understands what I'm saying. It's so annoying. Just speak normal on the radio. It's like, well, that's some gentle introduction. Just say what you mean, man. Just say what you mean. And what I mean by that led to them just turning against him because later on, when he's getting into fights and he's calling for their help, he's like, guys. And do you remember in Austria when Max is clearly in the wrong? He's going off and he's like doing moves under braking and like he's pushing people off the track and stuff. His team, their defense of Max in that moment was insane. It was, no, Max, you can never do anything wrong. Lando is driving like an absolute child here. Don't worry, Max. We will sort this out. Max, we've got you. No, Max, don't, just focus on the driving. You are so clearly in the right, Max. Max, don't even answer. Max, you never have to tell me, Max. Okay, because you're so right. You've been pushed wide there. It's not even fair. And then this time round, he puts his arm out for help, right? And they're like, "No, you've laid your bed." That's literally what they did. You've laid your bed now. Oh, you wanted to come in me? Oh, fuck me? No, fuck it. So when he was in there with Hamilton, and he sends it on the inside and outbreaks himself, and then Red Bull gives you wings, wherever he goes, he takes orbit, and he's actually like, guys, Hamilton. And they literally just stood there like, nah, we ain't. And when do you ever hear them ever do this? The smallest thing could happen, and the driver's trying to like tattle on the driver ahead of them to try and get some kind of advantage. And the team's always like, yep, we're looking into it, don't worry. This time it was, no, you're childish. He called him childish. You're childish, Max. You spoke to me childishly. Don't like it. At the same time, and yeah, Max had taken it too far at this point. Every time he got on the radio, he was screaming so much I couldn't even understand what he was saying. At the same time, I just feel like the way in which GP speaks and a lot of these radio people in this smart-ass little way would piss me off as well. So that's a tricky one. But ultimately, he fell down a couple more places. I don't know if he's got an extra penalty, so he might fall down even more. So Lando has still gained points in the season. But let's get into the whole Lando of it all now. Because, my oh my. So, where do we start with this? And I think that relationship there is kind of foreshadowing kind of a point McLaren was trying to make with, we're your friends here. We're the ones who like choose when you pit and like give you a good stop and like we want you to be a world champion. Don't piss us off. Because see how GP's acting right now with Max and sort of that toxicity? Even though I'm not denying they haven't worked exceptionally with winning stuff in the past, but like what it looks right now in this race, don't let that be us, right? But ultimately, McLaren put themselves in a situation once again because it feels like they just have this huge naivety when they get themselves into these situations. And like, I know they're trying to cover Hamilton or whatever, but they would have been fine regardless. They would have been P1 and P2 regardless if they just pitted Piastri first or whatever. And Piastri does make a mistake where he puts himself in this sort of catching distance. So there is that. But they pit Norris first and they dangle the carrot in front of Norris. They show Norris the life he could have, you know. They show him, you know, this utopia of him winning the race. They say, look, you can win it. You'll be P1. You know, it'll be your second win of the season. You'll gain major points on Max, you know. You'll be 6 seconds ahead. Look, you'll see that. See, you have got the pace weekend that if you was a car ahead, you'd be able to gain. And now we're going to show you that you can gain. You're going to be 6 seconds ahead. We're going to show you all of this. And we're going to tell you to take it away. And it's like, you know the situation he's in. You know he's fighting for a championship, and you're going to put him in the situation where he's undercutting his teammate. He comes out already 3.5 seconds ahead, which he can grow to 6, and then tell him to slow all the way down and give that back. Like, that's a situation where anyone, I don't care how many meetings you're having on Sundays, looking in his eyes, telling him he's a good human or whatever, right? You put someone in that situation where they want to feel like a killer, they might kill, and you can't be surprised at that. And then comes the emotional blackmail, which, by the way, it's like Pokemon. It's like McLaren used emotional blackmail on Lando, and it was super effective because Lando, you see how he reacted after Austria when my dear best friend Max sort of, you know, he questioned me. He drove with me like I was Ocon, like he treated me like nothing type thing, and how he was in the interviews. Like, he's quite emotional. You can get to him like that. And if we go through all the stuff they were saying to him, it's crazy. So they start off. They're like, stop trying to prove a point. We get it. You can gain. You got the pace, whatever, when you're out in front. Stop trying to prove your point. Just give him the place back. It's getting boring now. They're like, you know, they go at it from a different angle. They're like, we know you'll do the right thing, Lando. We know you're not like this. Like, we know you will come to your senses and you will do the right thing, Lando. Think of the meetings we have on Saturdays and Sundays. Think about what we've been saying to each other. Think about how you have to look Piastri in the eyes, look us in the eyes. How, you know, what have we been saying, Lando? We know who you are deep down. All of this stuff, all these moments. They go, you know, this is not how you win a championship. You're going to need us. You're going to need Oscar if you want to win this championship. You know, and then they go, this is one of the ones that was actually wildest to me, which other people didn't pick up on as much. Other people liked the sort of, we know you'll do the right thing. That's when everyone went crazy with. To me, it was the whole, which one was it? I'm trying to protect you, Lando. I'm doing this for you, Lando. I'm trying to save you right now. Which kind of came with, like, what are the undertones of that? Like, the team aren't going to think much of you. I'm not going to think much of you. Oscar's going to lose a lot of respect for you. It's not going to help you in the future. I kind of got the vibe he was saying, like, social media is killing you right now and they're going to kill you if you do this arsehole type of move. And it's like, damn. And, you know, it comes down to it. I think he kind of thought to himself, and if I got 3 laps left, maybe I can let him go past and have a go at him and just try and overtake him again, which would have been the most baller thing if he managed to do that, by the way, but it didn't happen. So he didn't do it on the last lap or anything. But he proved his point. He gained. He gave him the position back, which ultimately I'm conflicted. In the moment, I'm like, I know what I would have done, and I would have finished first. I would have finished, but that is a very, like, and Max would have done the same, and that's a very, like, in the moment, you know. And he managed to be able to step out of that and think long term. But it's a ballsy thing because, again, there's two sides of it. If you lose by 7 points, which we know how sport works, that could be pretty likely, then you're going to go, fuck. But at the same time, if you're so confident in yourself and the team that you definitely have the quickest car now and you're going to be dominant 9 times out of 10 on the weekend, then you are going to need them. Especially because you've proven that this year so far you've had a dominant car and you've not been able to do what Max or Lewis has done, which is go from pole, P1, see it out. You're going to be like Max in that first season where you're a fucking legend checker, you know, where Perez is helping you at times and he's like keeping someone behind. And he's done that brilliantly and he's actually helped Lando so many times, not just this season, but last season as well. And it's like, what do you do if you do win this race? Okay, it's a 7-point difference if I win or don't win. And I'm going to look like I'm the guy, I'm like Vettel, I'm like these greats before, what would they do type thing. But what's it really going to mean? Are you going to be able to go and jump into your team's arms and like pop the champagne and like, you're going to go into Spa And there probably is going to be races where he does need Oscar, and Oscar is so compliant a lot of times, and he is like the perfect second driver to have is in a fight like this, that with 12 races to go, like it's a huge deficit he has to make up, it feels like, and it's going to be difficult regardless. And even if he does win races, it feels like Max is always going to be P2, P3, like right behind anyway. Maybe he'll be DNFing a lot more with what we've been seeing recently, but like it is conflicting on what decision to make. The issue is more like with McLaren putting their drivers in this situation where Oscar Piastri is apologizing when he's won type thing. But like, yeah, I mean, this weekend everyone's just miserable. You know, it's like everyone's angry. Everyone on the radio, Lando's angry about it. Oscar's not angry, but he's in a situation about it. You know, Max, Daniel, it's like F1 and the Seven Dwarves. This one's grumpy. This one's called Grumpy. This one's also grumpy. That one's called Grumpy. It's like everyone's just grumpy type thing. So yeah, it was a tricky race. And Lando, they said, "We know you'll do the right thing, Lando." Literally he was whispering this shit in his ear, and he did do the right thing, whichever you think the right thing was, right? And but it was close though. It was I think even when he said that, he didn't know if he did know Lando was going to do the right thing, because he was speaking to him like he was already like let down and really pissed about him and stuff. Like he wasn't too sure. He kind of had like a Cedric Diggory moment. Like it really made me think of that. Like in the Goblet of Fire. I know, nerdy. When they're in the maze and Cedric gets caught up by the vines, and then Harry like looks at him and his like pupils like dilate, however, and then he does save him, and then Cedric's like, oh, for a second there I thought you were really going to leave me, and then Harry's like, for a second there so did I, type thing. Like for a second, like he didn't know, but I don't think Lando definitely knew either, because at first he was kind of saying the stuff to him, trying to break him down emotionally, like, you know, playing those cards, like, come on now, like, listen that. And Lando was kind of replying cold-blooded, like, tell Piastri to catch up then. Tell him to catch me. That type of thing. He was radio silent, like, they were saying something to him, he wasn't replying. They're like, check, are you even there still? But then it comes down to it, and then 2 laps to go, he slows down, and he overtakes. I think he had a lot of time with, you know, sort of me, myself, and I just sort of thinking about it, like, trying to play the cards. And I feel like he kind of was going to take an hour regardless, like, online. I think a lot of people were going to think he was, like, a lot of, like, people who have drivers as their profile picture, like, Stan accounts, were going to probably think he's an arsehole if he won it and stuff. A lot of people are going to think he's weak, the fact that he gave it up. People who have this sort of winner mentality type thing. You know, winners win this race and they go out ahead. And I think in the future now, and that was Oscar's first win, and, like, Oscar did overtake him in the start, and Oscar did have the pace to keep that gap and stuff like that. But I think if the similar thing happens in Spa, it doesn't matter what's fair. It doesn't matter if Oscar jumped you on the start. It doesn't matter. Like, it feels like this was maybe unique and different, but now it has to be like the team as well have to like have the orders to go, Oscar, we know it maybe not fair, but Lando's not gonna let you retake. Like they have to, like, as a team as well. They can't play both sides of the time where we're going to let our drivers make a decision, but are we really letting them make a decision, or are we leaving it open and hoping they just make the right decision that we want them to make? It's just like, they got to sort that out. But yeah, Oscar won it, and that's just how it goes. Max had his fight with Hamilton, yeah, we got that. Red Bull, he crashes. Anything else? Lando, yeah, could have overtaken. On to Spa, we'll do the soft, medium, hard awards. I'll give the hard to... It's tricky. It's tricky. Do you give it to, like, it's so confusing. Like, it's Lando, did he do the right thing? Did he do the right thing? Do the right thing. That is really good. Time will really tell with that one. I'll give it to Piastri, because a lot of other people, aka like the George Russells of the world, are not staying as calm. He had one radio in all of that. The backs and the force between Lando and his team, and are you there? Can you hear me? And this and that. And he wavered a little bit. He was like, guys, it's getting really close now, type thing. Like, I'm a little nervous. It's going to make it tricky, type thing. And that's the only time he really wavered and got on the radio and said something. Apart from that, he kept it cool, calm, and collected all the way to the end. You know, he put trust in the team and his teammate that he would actually repay the faith from not just this race, but multiple races, and it did come through for him. So I'm going to give it to Piastri. The medium, I'll probably give Norris, and the soft, I guess I'd give it Max. Because he had severe head loss this weekend, and he really could have finished on the podium realistically. I think it was very possible, even with what he felt was a shit strategy, which I don't know if it was even that shit. I think he was never getting P2. I think P3 was basically best case scenario. I think so, and I think he definitely could have got that, and he didn't. So I guess I'll give it Max, even though. But I was very entertained by Max this weekend. I'll say that. On to Spa. I don't know if it's next week or the week after next, and I think there's a bit of a break. Which, oh my god, is literally cooking up. 7th different race winner, by the way. Let me highlight that because I predicted. If I did, I actually would have been so right so far because I predicted all of these race winners. Actually, apart from Russell, I didn't predict Russell. I predicted Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Norris, and Piastri all win a race this year. Those are all right. My Hail Mary, my sort of throwaway hopeful one was Ricardo. Hey, look, he was P1 and Q1, alright. But yeah, that looks like that one won't come through. But 7 different race winners. People were thinking this was going to be even worse than last season in domination. Let's just keep not forgetting that because this has been really exciting. And I've been looking at the points, like 60, 70 points to catch up to Verstappen now. Because ultimately, Verstappen's, I think, the only one who's won 2 races, I think. And he's won like 5. He might be like 6 or something. So it's going to take real domination now, which I'm not sure that McLaren and Norris is going to pull it out of the bag somehow. I'm hoping they do. But yeah, Spa usually rains a lot there. I don't know who that's going to help because it's just unknown quantity. But Norris needs to start winning. He needs to like pick up like 5. If there's 12 races left, he's got to win like half at least, right? I don't know how likely that feels right now, considering how spread out they are. And in this time when Red Bull aren't winning, you need to just kind of be collecting them all for yourself. So, don't know. But this was an exciting one. I enjoyed it for the other side of the sport it's given me. Because we've had races where it's just like great racing and stuff. So I've enjoyed the other side. I felt like we've been lacking a lot of radios recently as well. But yeah, this was Hungary. We got hard, so we're going to the end. Joining back again for Spa. See you then. Thank you. Dankeschön.